Good afternoon, children.
Good afternoon.
We completed the chapter Animal Kingdom. Now we are going to begin with the next chapter, Morphology of Flowering Plants. Actually, it is a big chapter or a lengthy chapter, but CBSE has deleted some of the topics and you need to learn only about inflorescence. Very few topics only you need to learn. An easy topic. These topics are very easy to understand also. And if you have good observation skill, you might have noticed some of the features that we are going to discuss. So without further delay, let us begin with the chapter Morphology of Flowering Plants. And here, I think all are having the deleted syllabus which I had sent. If anybody is not having, please do let me know. The flower and the inflorescence. So we'll begin with inflorescence. Flower, as you know, it's a modified shoot. Shoot means stem. Stem undergoes modification and forms a flower. Modifications that occur in the shoot to give rise to flower are as follows. So I told you it's a modified shoot. Flower is a modified shoot. And what are the changes that the shoot is undergoing, or what all changes the shoot are undergoing in order to form a flower? First point, apical meristem. About meristems you had learned in class 9. Anybody is remembering what are meristems? What are the features of meristems? Anybody? What are meristems? Alantina, tell me what are meristems. Most important feature. Meristematic tissues, class 9.
Seen in the leaves.
Huh?
Tissues seen in the leaves.
They are actually tissues. Who can tell? Anybody? Nobody is remembering? Malavika, how was your trip? Tell me the answer now. What are meristematic tissues? They are actively
Dividing.
They are actively dividing tissues, and you have learned about apical meristem, intercalary meristem, lateral meristem in class 9. An apical meristem, as the name suggests, these tissues are present on the apex. Apex means tip of the root, tip of the stem. You can find apical meristem. Apical meristem will undergo changes, or it will change into floral meristem, which will divide and form flower. Internodes do not elongate. So normally the internodes means the distance between two consecutive nodes. The node is a point on the stem from where a leaf or a branch originates. So those internodes, the gap or the distance between the two nodes will get shortened. It will not elongate. Axis as such will get condensed. So when that particular part of the shoot or stem has to transform into a flower, these are some of the changes that it undergoes. First one, the apical meristem. So apical meristem is the meristematic tissue responsible for increasing the length of the stem and the root, and they are present at the tip of the stem and root. But when a shoot has to modify, has to change into a flower, some changes will be taking place in that shoot or stem. One is the apical meristem present at the tip of the stem will change into floral meristem, which will divide and lead to a flower, lead to the formation of a flower. Second point, since it has to transform into a floral shoot, or it has to change into a flower, the internodes will not get elongated. If it is a stem, there should be spacing in between the nodes, and internodes will get elongated. But now this has to transform into a flower. So there, the internodes need not be that elongated. So it will not elongate, the axis will get condensed. Different kinds of floral appendages are produced at the nodes instead of leaves. So actually from the node, as I said, a leaf or a branch will originate. But when it has got modified into a floral stem, instead of leaves, floral appendages means the different parts of a flower will be developed at the nodes. So instead of leaves, so normally in a normal, under normal conditions, from the nodes, a new leaf or a branch will originate. But once these transformations are taking place, once a shoot is undergoing modifications, these are some of the prominent changes taking place. First, I said the apical meristem will change into floral meristem. Internodes will not get elongated. Axis as such will get condensed. And instead of leaves, floral appendages, floral structures like sepals, petals, pistil, carpel. So different floral appendages will be produced at the nodes. And when the shoot tip is modified into flowers, the flower is solitary. See, in some cases or in some plants, you can see a single flower produced at the tip, not a bunch or a group of flowers, just one flower. Solitary means only one flower. The flowers will be produced alone, independent flowers. So when the tip of the shoot is undergoing changes and getting transformed into flowers, the flowers will be solitary. The arrangement of flowers, but at times you can see a bunch of flowers and you call it as inflorescence. So in certain flowers, you can see in the same axis, so many flowers will be arranged. So in that case, you can call it as an inflorescence. In certain cases, solitary flowers. In certain cases, you can see a floral axis full of flowers. So many flowers will be arranged on either side, or it will be arranged on the floral axis. Floral axis means the axis on which flowers are produced. So sometimes the flower can be solitary, only one flower, single flower. Whereas in certain other cases, you can see it's a bunch of flowers. Okay, you understood the difference. Inflorescence, pungula and just one flower. So in pungula or in inflorescence, you can see in that same floral axis, small, so many flowers. Usually in inflorescence, the flowers will be small. When they are solitary, they'll be larger in size. So small flowers will be arranged on the floral axis. So once again, so we were learning about inflorescence. How is a flower formed, or what is a flower? Flower is actually a modified shoot. A shoot is undergoing, the stem is undergoing modifications and getting transformed into a flower. And there are so many changes that the shoot undergo before becoming or before getting transformed into a flower. The apical meristem will change into floral meristem. You know, apical meristem is present at the tip of the root and the shoot. So the apical meristem present at the tip of the shoot will change into floral meristem. Then the internodes will not get elongated. If it was a stem, the internodes has to get internode should get elongated, but here elongation will not happen. The axis will get condensed because it has to produce flowers. So in a floral axis, there is no need of longer internode. So the axis as such will get condensed. And instead of leaves being produced, floral appendages will be produced, and flowers can be either solitary or in groups known as inflorescence. When so many flowers are arranged on the floral axis, then you call it as inflorescence. Arrangement of flowers on a floral axis, you call it as inflorescence. Based on the arrangement of floral axis, you can classify inflorescence into two types. How the flowers are arranged, the pattern, based on the pattern of arrangement of flowers on the floral axis, you can classify it into two: racemose inflorescence and cymose inflorescence. So first, let's see what is meant by racemose. Main axis will continue to grow and flowers borne laterally in an acropetal succession. Acropetal succession means at the tip you can find younger flowers and older flowers will be at the base. If you see this particular figure also, just a minute. See, in racemose inflorescence, see the figure given over there. In that you can see on the base, bigger flowers or older flowers will be present, and at the tip you will find younger flowers. So younger flowers at the tip, older flowers at the base. So such an arrangement is known as acropetal succession. Flowers are arranged laterally in an acropetal succession, and the main axis will continue to grow because younger flowers are at the tip, they'll continue to grow. Whereas in cymose inflorescence, see the next one, you can find that older flowers are at the tip, younger flowers are at the base. The main axis terminates in a flower. Flowers are born in a basipetal succession, means older flowers are found at the tip, younger flowers are at the base. If you compare these two pictures, you will get an idea. In racemose inflorescence, younger flowers will be at the tip. That means the axis will continue to grow, producing more and more flowers. So younger flowers will be present at the tip, and on the lower side or on the basal part, you can see older flowers. Older flowers, when compared to that, you can see they'll be fully bloomed. And see the figure, fully bloomed flowers are present at the base, whereas at the tip you can find younger flowers. And since younger flowers are produced at the tip, the main axis should continue to grow. Only then they can help in the formation of younger flowers at the tip. And such an arrangement where younger flowers are at the tip and older flowers are at the base, you call it as acropetal succession. This pattern of arrangement is acropetal succession. Whereas in cymose inflorescence, see the figure, and there you can find the main axis. The growth has stopped. The main axis ends in a flower. It's not continuing to grow. And younger flowers will be at the base. You can see the buds are at the lower side and the fully bloomed older flowers are at the tip. So this is the classification. There are different criteria for classifying inflorescence of flowers. This is one classification, and this is based on the arrangement of flowers on the floral axis. So the criteria you should know. Only then you can say how it is classified, because there are different ways to classify flowers or inflorescence. So if you are asked how to classify inflorescence on the basis of its arrangement on the floral axis, then you can say into two types, racemose and cymose. In racemose, the flowers are arranged laterally in acropetal succession, whereas in cymose, they are arranged in basipetal succession. And the difference between acropetal and basipetal succession is that in acropetal, younger flowers will be at the tip and older flowers will be at the base, and here the main axis will continue to grow. Whereas in the case of cymose inflorescence, younger flowers will be at the base and older flowers will be at the tip, and the main axis will not grow further. It will end in a flower. It will terminate in a flower. Clear? Okay. Now, reproductive unit in angiosperms. You know that flower is the reproductive part of the flower. Angiosperms include flowering plants. All plants do not produce flowers. So, flowering plants, in them, flower is the reproductive unit. A flower has got vegetative part and reproductive part. The vegetative parts include root, stem, leaves, all those come under vegetative parts. But the reproductive part is the flower. We call it as a reproductive part because the male and female reproductive organs which produce gametes are present in the flower. This you had been learning from class 7 onwards. A typical flower has got 4 whorls. Which are those 4 whorls? Aditya Dev, name those 4 whorls. Yes.
Like stamen, pistil.
Correct only. Stamen, pistil. 2
Petal
more.
and petals.
Petals.
Sepal.
Sepals. Very good. Calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium. So you had learned it as sepals, petals, stamen, and pistil or carpel. And here you are learning the scientific names of these. Calyx, that is the name for sepals. Calyx includes sepals. The layer consisting of sepals is calyx. Corolla. Corolla is the colored part of the flower or the whorl including petals. Petals come under corolla, and both of them are known as accessory organs because they don't produce any gametes. They help, they have, each one is having a particular function, and the male reproductive and female reproductive organs are there. So along with that, these two just S's, they are the accessory organs. Andrecium. It includes stamens, male reproductive organ. Gynecium, female reproductive organ. Remember gynecology, gynecium. So that is female reproductive organ. Andrecium, remember anther, andrecium. Andrecium is the male reproductive organ. Andrecium, gynecium, calyx, corolla. Calyx includes sepals, corolla, petals, andrecium, stamens, gynecium, pistil or carpel. The different whorls of a flower are arranged on the thalamus. So all these whorls, they are arranged on a broader basal portion present, that is known as thalamus. So here in this picture, you cannot find thalamus, and I'll show you that. Thalamus or receptacle. So there will be a swollen base. There will be a swollen base for the flower, and that is known as receptacle. Pedicel is the stalk of the leaf. Just a minute. This is pedicel, stalk of the flower, and this part, that is known as thalamus, the broad base or the receptacle, that is known as thalamus. Thalamus is a swollen end. Thalamus is the swollen end. Just a minute. And this is found at the tip of pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the leaf. Sorry, stalk of the flower. The stalk of the flower is known as pedicel. Pedicel is having a swollen part at the tip, and that is known as thalamus. The stalk of the flower is pedicel, and at the tip of that you can see a broad base that is known as thalamus. I have circled it over there. Which flower you are seeing here, children? Flower of which plant? Anybody can identify? Which flower? Are you there? Can anybody identify the flower given in the second figure? You all might be having it at home, I think, this particular plant. I have it at home. Starting with P. Nobody can identify? Passion fruit, no? No? For that also no answer. Okay. When calyx and corolla are not distinct, when you cannot separate out calyx and corolla, you can call it as perianth. Perianth is when calyx and corolla are not distinct. When both of them are we cannot demarcate or distinguish between these two, then you call it as perianth. When calyx, when sepals and petals are not distinct, then you can call it as perianth. In lily also, in water lily also, you can find this perianth. Lotus, water lily and all also, you can find perianth, where the calyx and corolla are not distinct. You cannot separate out calyx and corolla. So once again, flower is the reproductive part of a flower. Sorry, flower is the reproductive part of a plant, and angiosperms include flowering plants. A typical flower has got 4 layers: calyx, corolla, andrecium, and gynecium. And there are 4 whorls, as I told, and these are arranged on thalamus. Thalamus is the swollen base of pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. So at the tip of the stalk, there is a broad base that is known as thalamus or receptacle. And it is on this receptacle or thalamus that the different layers are arranged. And in certain cases, you cannot make out calyx and corolla. They may not be that distinct. They may not be easily distinguished from each other. Then in that case, together, calyx and corolla together, you call them as perianth. Now, based on the sex organs present, you can classify them into different types. Classification of flower on the basis of sex organs. Unisexual. Unisexual. So when a flower is having either stamen or carpel. In certain flowers like papaya, nutmeg. So in these plants, two types of flowers will be there. Male flowers and female flowers. The flowers will have either stamen or carpel, not both. Both together will not be present in certain plants. So such flowers, you call it as unisexual flowers. Then bisexual. When both stamens, for example, hibiscus, when both stamens and carpels are present in the same flower, you call it as a bisexual flower. Bi means two. Bisexual flower will be having both male and female sex organs, both stamen and carpel. Once again, unisexual and bisexual. Flower is having either stamen or carpel. So you can see in the first figure that blue colored structure, they are the stamens, whereas the pistil or carpel is given in red or pink color. And in the first flower, you can find both stamens and carpel. So since both these sex organs are present, you call it as bisexual flower. Whereas in the second figure, second and third figure, those flowers are examples for unisexual flowers. And we call it a staminate or pistillate flower because in the second flower, only stamens are seen. So it's a male flower. You can call it as a male flower or a staminate flower because only stamens are present. And the third one, that is also an example for a unisexual flower. And here only pistil is present. So either you can call it as a female flower or a pistillate flower. So this is the classification of flowers on the basis of the sex organs present. So we learned how to classify inflorescence on the basis of arrangement of flowers on the floral axis into racemose and cymose. And then we learned about two types of flowers on the basis of sex organs present in them. You can categorize them into unisexual and bisexual flowers. Unisexual means they will have either male or female reproductive organs, and bisexual means they will have both male and female sex organs. Any doubt, children? Any doubt? Now next we are going to classify them on the basis of symmetry. How can you distinguish between, or what is the main difference between racemose and cymose inflorescence? Analysts?
Racemose, it continue the
main axis will continue to
axis, and
main axis will continue to
grow.
How are the flowers arranged?
They are laterally arranged in an acropetal succession.
What is meant by acropetal succession? How are the older and younger flowers arranged?
From the main branch.
You tell me how are, or what will be the position of old flowers or younger flowers? Younger flowers will be present at the base or at the tip. Remember the figure you saw.
The
Older or
ones
younger
will
at
be
the tip.
base.
You said main axis will continue to grow. So younger flowers will be at the tip. And older flowers at the base. Tired of answering, no? So cymose inflorescence, Emmeline will say.
Cymose grow continuously, but
What will grow continuously? Cymose
main axis
will continue to grow.
No, ma'am. They terminate. They don't grow.
Terminate in what?
Main axis.
Main axis will terminate in, will end in a
Flower.
flower. And how are the flowers arranged?
Basic petals. Young ones will be at the base and older ones will be at the tip.
Okay, good. Then what is the difference between unisexual and bisexual flowers? Tom?
And the flowers that have either male or female part is known as unisexual, and the flowers which have both the reproductive organs are known as bisexual.
Which are the reproductive organs, male and female reproductive organs that they have?
Gynoecium.
Andrecium, gynecium and andrecium. Okay. Alina, Varghese, Rose, Anne Mary, Atulya, Alan, Zahan, Irene, Lakshmi. Any genuine reason, message me. Otherwise, I will not mark attendance. Okay, we'll continue. You followed, no doubts. Why this Raya is every now and then going to the waiting room?
Ma'am, can
Yes.
you show the first slide of inflorescence?
First slide, what we started with. Modified shoot, that one. Yes, Annelies? First slide. Annelies, your fan is working well. Okay, I'll show you that. Thank you. Next, we are going to learn about the classification of flowers on the basis of symmetry. And we can categorize flowers into different types based on the symmetry. First one, actinomorphic, zygomorphic, and asymmetrical. Asymmetrical, zygomorphic, actinomorphic. These are the three types of symmetry. Similar symmetry you had seen in animal kingdom also. Radial symmetry, bilateral symmetry, asymmetry, all that you had learned. And actinomorphic is same as radial symmetry. Zygomorphic is same as bilateral symmetry. And asymmetrical means no symmetry. In no way you can divide the flower into two identical halves. So we'll be learning about each one in detail. So the names actinomorphic, zygomorphic, asymmetrical. These are the three types of flowers based on its symmetry. We'll start with the first one, actinomorphic. In actinomorphic flowers, you can divide it into two equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center. So different flowers are shown here. And in the first flower, you can see a dotted line. If you, by cutting it through any radial plane which passes through the center, you will get two identical halves. So here you can see if you divide in this way, you will get two identical halves, 1 and 2. And if you cut it in this way also, you will get two identical halves, 1 and 2. Okay, then even if you cut it like this also, you will get two identical halves, 1 and 2. So if you cut the flower in any radial plane passing through the center, you will get two identical halves. Such flowers are known as actinomorphic flowers, mustard, datura. These are some examples for actinomorphic flowers. It is same as radial symmetry that we learned in animals. Once again, a flower is said to be actinomorphic if it can be divided into two equal radial halves by cutting it along a radial plane passing through the center. It is compulsory that it should pass through the center. Otherwise, we will not get two identical halves. The flower can be divided into two identical halves by cutting it along any radial plane passing through the center. Examples, mustard and datura. So we'll be continuing next class. Thank you, children. See you next class.
Thank you, ma'am.